Power Hour with John Lee.
Welcome to the Power Hour. John Lee in the house with his bottle of water. So I'm going to try and put that just in this shot, which is normally quite annoying, even for me when I'm watching it. I'm thinking, move that bottle of water. So I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, today we're talking about mysteries of the ancient world. Oh yes, things that I look at and I'm not convinced by the explanation at all. And I have looked, I have tried, I've read whatever I can read, I've seen whatever I can see. And in some cases, I'm just not buying the explanation. And in other cases, there is no explanation. So we'll go around the world and see what I'm talking about. We'll begin at Serpent Mound in the USA, in Ohio, actually. So what's that? What's Serpent Mound? Well, it's a mound in the shape of a serpent. But what's special about it? Well, it's on the edge of a meteor crater. So sometime in the very distant past, millions of years ago, meteor came down, smashed that area of the United States, big massive crater, and right next to it is where we find the Serpent Mound. So a little bit of statistics for you here. It's 411 meters long. It's 3 feet high. And it points directly to the summer solstice. Right, so at the end of it, if you stand at the end of it and you look straight, and it literally shows you where to stand and where to look. You look straight. Across the valley, there are two mountains going like that into peaks, and the sun comes down between those mountains during summer solstice. And this is the kind of thing that was very important to these ancient cultures, because this was built up to about 3,000 years ago. So the estimates go from 1,000 to 3,000. And the general trend that you'll see with all these things is to try to simplify everything. Everything was done by really simple people with really simple tools for really simple reasons. And for me, what this indicates, and I'll come back to this case in a minute, but I'm just using that piece of information to indicate what I'm talking about, which is that we, as it's often been said, are a species with amnesia. We really don't know where we come from. We don't know what our history is. And even if you're a religious person and you say, well, you know, God created the universe, full stop. Okay, you might be right. Or you're a Big Bang lover and you say, well, Big Bang, you know. Okay, you might be right as well. But that doesn't change what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the sociological and cultural evolution of the human race over the last several thousand years. And there are huge, tremendous gaps in that story and that narrative. And so what we've done as a species is to fill those gaps with supposition and arrogance. And part of that is to say that the people in the past were inferior to us and the people before them were inferior to them. So what we're doing is we're going from the cave to the iPhone in a line like that of continuous improvement. And if you try to mess with that line, you will be attacked and called a conspiracy theorist, of course, as we call for anything that's not just completely in lockstep with, you know, the establishment, Wikipedia and people like that. And this is sad, in my opinion. It's very sad and it's tremendously arrogant. And it doesn't hold water anyway. Because if you look, for example, at the Persians of 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, and compare them to the English of 600 or 700 years ago, you'll see that the Persians were far more advanced at a totally different period in time. So I think there are periods of high points and low points, basically, undulating improvement, and dark times like the Dark Ages when the Roman Empire fell and most of Europe just went into complete remission. And so why am I talking about Serpent Mound in that context? Well, it's at least 2,000 years old. If we just go with the average between the estimates of 1,000 and 3,000 years old, and it's pointing to the summer solstice. So these are people who, let's say 3,000 years ago, because even I think that's probably even a conservative estimate. But 3,000 years ago, these people knew that the sun would come down in a particular place on a particular date. So we're talking calendars. And they knew, or they had attributed all kinds of importance to that. And to the point where they were willing and able to construct something that was massive and difficult and complex and also invisible. So if you're on the ground, if you go to Serpent Mound, and you can have a picnic there, you can spend all day there with your mates, and you won't notice the snake. You can't see it. From ground level, it cannot be seen. And now, well, in recent years, people have been going there with drones and sending the drones up into the sky to film down so that they can see the snake. And they're also using computer software to highlight the shape of the snake, just to make it more visible, to accentuate the construction of it. And, well, that begs the question, how did the people who built it admire it? If you couldn't even see it, you know, and it's a question of sales as well. How are you going to sell that to the people? Right, what we're going to do is we're going to build this snake, and it's going to be a big project, very, very complicated, very, very difficult, and it needs to be absolutely precise. And we will never see it. We will never see it. Our children will never see it. Future generations will never see it. The only people who will ever be able to see what we're building now will be those who are able to fly. And at that time, obviously, you're talking about, you know, ye olde science fiction. People flying, people in the sky looking down on this. That's not possible. So why would you build something that can only be seen from the sky in the deep, dark history? And, of course, that promotes all kinds of different theories, particularly that this thing and others were built to be appreciated from the sky. Now you can hypothesize, well, is that sci-fi, extraterrestrial orientation, or is that religious? So you could say, well, maybe it was built for aliens who had been, or aliens that they believed in, but people from other planets who would be able to fly and would be able to see this from their vantage point. Or was it built for the gods, or whatever gods they believed in? They would probably be described as pagans. So any pagan gods that they believed in may have been able to see this. But any way you look at it, this has been built for people who are looking down on the earth from above. People who are in the sky, or entities that are in the sky, whatever way you want to describe it, whether it's people in heaven, saints and angels and deities, or it's aliens, people from other planets. Any way you cut the mustard, that's people in the sky looking down on it. So that raises a very interesting set of questions for me. And I'm not sure what the answer is, and nobody is. But what is interesting in all these cases is the location. So this is, as I said earlier, on the edge of a meteor crater. And in that meteor crater, we find tremendous quantities of iridium, which is a precious mineral, basically, that is extremely useful and expensive, and is used today, and is very valuable today. And that's where this snake was built. And if you actually look, just to finish with a little design point, when you get to the end of the snake, there's a snake's head. And the snake has a sun, or the sun, in its mouth. And across the way, across the valley, is where you'll find the sun coming down. And it all seems very elaborate to me. Can you not just have like a stone triangle pointing at the sun across the valley? Why do we need this big snake that we'll never see? Makes no sense to me, that, especially not being 411 meters long. I don't think that's necessary at all. So I don't think we're talking about things that were necessary, but they were done. So that's